Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. We're here today with special guest, Darlene Cordero, who's here to share with us her new book, The Healer's Playbook, Empowering Wellness Entrepreneurs. Are you ready to dive into practices that can help you align your wellness business goals and prepare you for exponential growth? Well, today's guest is going to dive into just that. So, Darlene Cordero founded Wellness Culture, an organization dedicated to supporting wellness practitioners, teachers, and healers. Focused on nurturing and advocating for the success and well-being of this industry, she is guided by a passion for driving culture and collective consciousness. As a strategic advisor for leaders, founders, and startups, Darlene facilitates crucial strategic decisions and connections. Her creative vision has led to impactful collaborations with luminaries such as Deepak Chopra and multi-Grammy Award-winning Latin recording artist J Balvin. So welcome to the show, Darlene Cordero.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and your community.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. So what inspired you to write this?
Wow, where do you start with that?
I know.
It feels as if it was destined. I think a lot of authors feel that that pull, that inner knowing of that something needs to be created. And for me, the catalyst of that was when I was diagnosed last year with stage 4 breast cancer that had metastasized in my liver. So at the age of 45, after a diagnosis about 5 years ago with like stage 0, very early onset breast cancer, it had returned. And I had really not prepared because in my mind, it was something that I had conquered and overcome. And during that period of time, I started working with Deepak Chopra and working in the mindful space and really focused on my well-being, even moved to California. So I from New York. So I felt so in alignment in my life and didn't expect the diagnosis. And so when that happened, there was just as it does for so many that sadly encounter these types of diagnoses and grief in their lives. I had a moment of reflection, a moment of understanding what I want to do and also what I want to leave behind in my life. And I had worked in the wellness space for a couple of years at that point. Started my own company, Wellness Culture, after leaving working with Deepak's company, Chopra Global. And I wanted to create a book for the healer, the practitioner, the teacher, the educator who serves and yet doesn't have all of the resources to build out their business with intention and creating a business in their terms, on their terms. So that was my goal with the book.
Well, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that process. Cancer is never something that is easy for anybody,
Yeah.
and it really does change a life in many ways. I have to say though, the focus on legacy, I think, is so important now. So many people are really looking at that.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually is so, I'd say this to everyone that would listen. It really is about understanding we all have this perception that we're going to live forever for whatever reason. As humans, we do not want to die, right? We imagine that, we'll grow old and hopefully we get to do that. But for some people, that doesn't necessarily happen. And some people have these moments that give them the opportunity. I believe for me, it's given me the opportunity of clarity and focus. And I feel as a gift, the opportunity to now really focus on that, my legacy. I'm a mother. I feel as I'm, a community leader. I love my community and those that I serve and their extended communities. And I wanted to have something tangible that someone could pick up one day or hear, or even I started a YouTube show because I wanted to document. There's this desire to document this experience, but also un- understand and share my perspective on this experience. So hopefully it helps someone else.
So, what would you say is the book vision and purpose? Because I know there's so much that you cover in this book. It's so extraordinary.
Thank you. This first book, is really about my work in the wellness industry. So, of course, I mention and I share the experience of my diagnosis in May of 2023. But I really focus on living. The book is about really living boldly, and that you don't need a diagnosis to get you focused and determined on your purpose and living it every day. So I wanted the book to be a guide, a love letter for so many practitioners, teachers, yoga teachers, breathwork teachers, meditation teachers that I know personally because of the work that I've worked, in wellness with different brands, top brands in the world, that came to me and would say, Darlene, I don't know what to charge, or what does a partnership look like? Or they don't have the business acumen that I gratefully had, because I worked in banking for many years in New York, and then I worked in media, and then I came to the wellness industry. So I've wanted to provide that as an easy access point for anyone to pick up the book, either if they're starting a business in the wellness industry, a practice, and they want to, or they want to revisit what they've been doing because it doesn't feel as aligned or in flow. So the book is really a love letter, a guide for any practitioner to pick up. Lots of reflection questions in there about why did they decide to start doing this thing? Why did they decide to start helping humanity, their community, through their healing arts, as I call it? Because I believe so deeply that the healer and the healing arts is a manifestation, another way in which people share their creativity. And it's through this form of the healing arts. And that therefore sometimes business is not so something that they're really excited about. And so I wanted to create something that would get them focused in the heart-centered work of why they created it, and then go from there.
I know many, many wellness entrepreneurs who
Hmm.
have a challenge when it comes to the business side of
Yeah.
just their journey. And you often hear of things, people saying, well, it's a God-given gift, so you shouldn't charge. And they've got all
Yeah.
these things that are piled onto
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
And so while they're faced with a lot of that kind of feedback and even personal opinions, their own personal self-doubts or what they have going on, what do you feel they can really learn from your book?
I feel that they can learn that they should not look to one side or the other, in the sense of looking at comparisons, and that because they do have this God-given gift, it is their destiny and their right to lean into all the parts of what it is to be a healer. I really love empowering the healer, the teacher, to say, hey, maybe you don't need to know all of the things, but hey, this is how you could learn how to market yourself authentically. And so I think that main focus for me is for them to focus on the ways in which they authentically share their voice. It feels more natural, because there's so much on social media, as you know. We're bombarded by Facebook and Instagram and all of the different YouTube videos, and you see all these comparisons, and it feels as if you're not doing enough. And I want them to know that they are, and that they can challenge themselves in the ways that feel most natural to them. My book, my way I work with my community, is that I don't tell them the way to do it. I actually I actually ask them to tell me what feels the most authentic to them, because there's so much out there with coaching programs and, quick fixes and make $100 million, whatever, kind of setups that we see. And a lot of people I still hear them asking the same questions because it's not personalized. It's not focused on mission and purpose first. And then, okay, what are the things that I actually need that could really support my community and myself? Am I really good on video? Am I best on audio, just audio only? Should I be on a stage of 100, or am I really feel in flow and natural on a stage of, 100,000 people? Like, where is that connection to source and yourself and your gifts? And then finding the ways then that you can market yourself within your community that feel really natural and not forced. Because when we force something, and especially we're not selling a car, we're selling healing. We're connecting. And when I even say that word, it doesn't feel genuine, which is why this is so important, because it is a sharing of a gift versus a transaction. And I want this community to feel that they can do it, but they have to use the wording, the conversations, the topics that feel really supportive to them. Because if they don't support themselves, then long term they won't be able to be there for their community as they should, right? So if they don't charge the amount that they feel is the right, that really they've gone through their budget and they actually know what the cost of their services are and goods, and the time it takes for them to prepare themselves and then also decompress from the work that they've just done. And they quantify that in a very simple way. Well, what is it that I need first, right? And then I can support my community. And then let me find the right clients that can support that exchange for myself to show up beautifully and supported to serve them.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Darlene Cordero in regards to her new book, The Healer's Playbook, Empowering Wellness Entrepreneurs. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you an author, speaker, or expert who is looking for more publicity? Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up for free interview requests from shows looking for guests. Radio Guest List is the #1 free booking resource for radio, podcasts, and TV talk shows who are looking for experts like you right now. Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up today to get the visibility you deserve.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special. When you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed, and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halpert.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Mary Ann. We're here today with special guest, Darlene Cordero, who's sharing with us her new book, The Healer's Playbook, Empowering Wellness Entrepreneurs. What do you see is some of the most challenging aspects that wellness entrepreneurs go through?
I think the first one and the most common is the one we're talking about, which is the charging, the exchange of how much do I charge? And I think that there's many variables to that, right? It is multidimensional, and there isn't one size fits all for this either. So the things that I tell people and I recommend is first look at where you live in the environment you're in and where what the cost of, let's say, what other people are charging, just as a benchmark, right? And then understand where your community that you're serving is. And what the costs, as I shared, what those costs feel like and look like. And I think that really understanding the value of what you do. And that this is why I wanted to create this book and as part of my legacy, because I wanted people to have these exercises available to them to be able to, I have a kind of an outline of, where you go through your expenses and what that feels like and kind of understanding your costs and what, that number looks like and then kind of working backwards. And I wanted them to be able to have that accessible to kind of go through the reasons maybe that there's a blockage around their own self-worth, because it's so connected and they're usually connected to something else that's, a spiritual lesson that needs to be learned in this life. And many, many healers have that. And I think that's the first one. And the second one I always hear is just, I don't like social media and I don't want to post, which is,
Oh my
challenging.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, it's basically being an island.
Yes. And that's when I love saying, okay, so what associations are you part of? Maybe organizations that you've been part of, because healers come from all backgrounds, right? There's people that worked in corporate America that then decided to come into the healing, become a healer and an entrepreneur. The colleges that they went to, the university, all the background of their family, friends, community groups, all of those people are your market. And I think that in our society, we've gone so much on the external and looking outside social media, it's AI technology, which I don't think any of it is negative. It's all about our consumption, but we've become very external. And so how do we go back inward, right? And focus on what are the things that I do have? What is it that I do have in my, my community, my close knit work, community that I know that supports me and loves me, including family, that I can lean into to let them know what I'm doing and how I'm supporting others at this moment. And that, I think, starting there, and you would be surprised to hear how many people say, "Oh, I never thought of that. I never thought about calling my alumni." I actually just got featured in my alumni newsletter, and I think that it's just a great way to remember where you've come from and where you've been and like the growth you've also had, and then inspire other people within those communities. And I think that just starts something natural of like connection, which is very genuine. and then moving from there. I have a lot of other ideas on social media, but I think that can start something that's very natural. It's more tangible, and it's more connected to something you already know, and that could start something really beautiful for people.
In your book, you talk about storytelling,
Yes.
and I'd love for you to share with us why that's such a powerful tool, especially for those in the wellness industry.
I think we all connect as humans to stories. We are so, um, we want to know the why. We want to know how we got here, similar to how we started this conversation. Why did you do this? And that's how we are able to identify ourselves in each other and see the through lines of, oh, wow, how can that impact me? Or oh, that quality of that person is very similar to mine. We see ourselves in each other, and we can inspire someone else through those experiences of storytelling. And I would say that it is the most powerful when a healer can say, and the wounded healer, which is so connected to this healing community, is we're working through our own healing. We are working through our own experiences and triumphs and adversities. And a lot of the reasons that many of the healers end up in this work is because they've had to, because they've hit rock bottom, either through physical ailment or spiritual or mental things that they've had to experience, that it brings them here. And how more powerful would it be to say, this is what happened to me, and you are not alone? That is such a powerful and important message that we can share with others, to let them know, because we have a crisis, as we all know, in America and across the globe, with loneliness. And the more that we can share our stories within our communities, and saying yes to sharing that authentically. And when I say authentically, it's a process. We've processed a lot of that wound, and how we're sharing that, where it could be supportive to someone else, and not what we've experienced maybe through friends and family as a dump. So we want to show up in that way and share the vulnerability of what that is, because then we can tell and show someone else that they're not alone, and they can feel that, because we've been vulnerable first. We've shared our story first. And then it just happens so beautifully and organically when someone then just pours their heart out, and it changes lives. It really does.
That's so empowering, being able to share those experiences to help empower other people, while I think it also motivates people. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
these are some of the possibilities.
Yes. These are the possibilities. And that's why representation matters so much. The faces, the voices, the experiences. It's not only about race. It's not only about age. It is about experiences, like the situations that people have gone through, and that we can represent that, right? And my work, when I worked at Univision Hispanic Media, and then when I went to work at Chopra, was very focused on representation. And in media was really around, of course, I was in the Hispanic radio, TV, radio. Our work was really to serve this community. And then at Chopra, it was the work I did as the director of talent and partnerships was really focused on what are the faces, voices, conversations that we are having to connect people to these teachings that maybe are not accessible to them. And I really love that work. It's very, very connected to my work today as it was, 10 years ago. Because I grew up in New York City from an immigrant family. My parents both are Dominican, and came here, and I didn't see a lot of the representation. I'm in my 40s, and when I was born in the 70s in New York, there was a lot of diversity, which is amazing, which is probably what really inspires me to be and continue to see the spaces and say, oh, we need a little bit more diversity in conversation and people. But I also, as I grew up there was a difference about the people that I was surrounded with. So there wasn't a lot of access to the things that I then grew when I went to college and university and work, I saw. And so it was a really big piece for me when I left that environment to be able to say, hey, let's put some let's add some conversation of what this could be like for someone in another group, in another age range, or any other kind of diversity or experience. And so I think that's very much why when I went to Chopra, I ended up, we brought in J Balvin, which is a reggaeton artist from Colombia, to do the 21-day meditation with Deepak Chopra in Spanish and English. And being able to have access to these tools that are generally not accessible to all. Now, after the pandemic, of course, there's so much more access, but continuing to create those conversations and those experiences and partnerships that provide access to more people. And so that's really another really big core message for me personally in the work that I do.
Yeah, I often hear of entrepreneurs getting to a point where they feel burnout. So, how can we help entrepreneurs avoid that and stay visible and relevant?
Well, they're doing it all. So of course they're going to be burnt out. There's so much there. They are the operator. They are customer service. They are the practitioner. They're marketing. They are doing their books. They're paying people. Um, it is not an easy task to be an entrepreneur, and constantly evolving because of the market, the economy, what their customers and clients are wanting from them, and their own self-development. So I I encourage the community to continue to support themselves first. And when I say that, it is really at the core to the basics of what is it that I actually need, what is coming from ego, what is coming from what truly is my purpose here to do and create. And it is a constant, daily, I would say, evaluation of self and how much your own your own self-care practice, your own spiritual practice is so connected to your work. And when those are out of balance, that's when we start seeing the burnout. And also finding the right people around you to support your work. So finding communities or people that are around you, other practitioners that maybe have the same struggles as you, and that you can create maybe some work dates and sit at a coffee shop together where you can share and exchange information or share and exchange tips. I think that we underestimate the importance of, sadly, because of technology sometimes, of like so many Facebook groups or podcasts and different things that are amazing, but that personal connection to someone that that could potentially support you because they have that experience, or even sitting down together with someone, it becomes really supportive to get that one thing that you don't want to get done because it's so difficult, and get some tips from them. And lastly, I'll share one of the things with the book and the evolution of what I do at Wellness Culture, which is the name of company I started, was that we're starting a online and in-person support membership. It's called the Healer Space. And what I want to do for these reasons is because I started my company 2 years ago, and I continue to hear that they get a service done. Let's say they get their marketing done with a website designer, or they get their social media templates from some other person or some kind of project, and they hire someone to do that. But then there's this ongoing support that they need about what is the latest on AI, or what are some tools that I can use for affiliate programs, or all of these questions. There's so many questions, and there's not a dedicated space for these healers. And so I just launched the healer space, and is super approachable on price. I wanted to make it as accessible as possible because this is a community that needs the support, and there's so many opportunities and resources focused on the consumer and not enough on this community, which is massive. It's such a hole in the market where companies and tech are not focused on the practitioner and so focused on the consumer, and they are not getting the support they deserve. And I keep saying this, and I say it in the book, who is supporting the healer? So I created the healer space as it's on Mighty Networks. It's very, a lot of healers are already there doing other, and maybe within their own groups. I wanted to make it really accessible and approachable, weekly calls, support, and just that ongoing kind of discussion that they need and desire.
So do you do support with social media? What type of things do you cover?
So we have different tracks. The way I wanted to make it was very organized because we have so much that we have going on. And so I wanted to create something that's very approachable. So I wanted to divide it up into the different, if you could say, different levels of what, someone in a business would go through. So it's business development, branding and messaging, marketing and exposure, operations and systems, retreats and events, and partnerships and collaborations. So these are the different tracks that we focus on at the healer space to be able to provide additional support. The book is that guide, and then this is the ongoing support for them. And so where we focus on is what are the latest, traits or kind of platforms that people are using? What's the easiest way for you to get your programming done? When I say programming on social media that feels in alignment with you, what is the latest? Like right now, recently, I heard so many people and myself say that, and I noticed it on IG, the viewership was so down. I kept on noticing it, and I notice patterns. That's just a weird thing that I have where I can see that. And I'm like, oh, I'm noticing that this is happening. So I started reaching out to a few friends. I'm like, are you noticing that like no one's watching? And then and everybody agreed. And so I stopped posting because I'm like, there's no point. There's no reason. That is something that we're sharing there, right? It's like, don't stress out right now. The numbers are not great, and then I received information from someone at Meta that then we shared within the organization that this is what was happening with the algorithm. So those are the things, right? So it's like you're not in a silo in this process because that's what's happening. Entrepreneurs are in a silo. Let's unite, share information. We have a weekly call on Wednesdays where people can come on, and we're basically, it's a strategy call. It's what's going on in your business, and it's in a group setting, and we want to make it accessible. So we want to have weekly versus monthly for the ongoing calls, where people are just going to come with their questions, and we're going to answer them. And if we don't have the answer, we'll find the answer because of the network, right? And it's the connection and the power of community within the healer space.
Well, how impactful is that? I know there's so many things changing it's so nice to have a community where that can all be brought together and discussed, because I have questions of things that come up and I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here? How do we figure this out?
Yeah. And it's so lonely. And I love sharing information. To me, there's no gatekeeping. There's no reason that anyone should not have access to it. And individually, it's funny because I was doing this with my community, just one-on-one and sharing, or my smaller groups. And I finally said, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to create it. I had hesitation about, even in the ways that I wanted to make this accessible, I had hesitation. So I get the hesitation about creating something, putting a number next to it. But I worked through that and I made it very accessible. It's only $9.99 a month. I just was like, I can't put more strain on my community than and so I was like, that feels really good for me. And those are the things that are, the healers have to do themselves. They have to sit with what it is that they're offering, and then really come from a place of, how can I create value? How can I be a blessing? I really do believe that when we come to projects, to things, to the offerings we create from that perspective, the other person can feel it and they know it. And so then that support comes in. Yeah. So that's the goal. So you have to join. Come on in. Send you the link.
I will have to join for sure. Well, Darlene, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work? I know we've talked about so many different things, but where they can also be part of your community.
Well, everything really on social media. I am at Meet Darlene on IG. So I will just give you my website, which is wellnessculture.co. And thehealerspace.com is where that community platform is. And of course, you'll be able to find it on my website as well. So I'm excited to connect. I love connecting with people. I love humans. I love the interaction of community and building. So if anyone is interested in connecting even deeper, I'm happy to connect on any of those platforms.
Well, Darlene, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Darlene. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The Healer's Playbook, Empowering Wellness Entrepreneurs. The Healer's Playbook is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.